All right, I think we are good to go. Good to go,
Sure.
Adam? Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin LaFontaine, and I'm the program lead for the Ontario Tourism Innovation Lab. Thank you for joining us in the first of our series of the Digital Shift virtual workshops. We are excited because we have close to 200 people on the call today, representing tourism entrepreneurs, small businesses, and organizations from right across the province. We are broadcasting today from Ontario's far south and are proud to have 3 Windsor-based organizations featured in this session. We have a full agenda and program, so I'll keep my introductions brief. First, I'd like to thank the Ontario Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries for the support of the lab and this virtual workshop series. I'd also like to give a shout out to Minister McLeod, ministry staff, the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, our regional tourism organizations, and local DMOs for their collective leadership during this unprecedented time for our industry and global community. Thanks also to the municipality of Chatham-Kent for the inspiration and catalyst for us to launch this virtual workshop series that we're starting today. For those we have not connected with yet, the Ontario Tourism Innovation Lab is a nonprofit initiative and tourism development incubator. Launched as a pilot in Windsor, Essex in 2018, the lab and its Spark mentorships and grants programs are now expanding to regions across the province. The lab is a program of Hackforge and is based here at the University of Windsor Epicenter. For more information, you can go to tourisminnovation.ca or follow us on social media. In addition to sparking and supporting the tourism ideas, experiences, and partnerships, one of our emerging goals is to cultivate and propel more collaborations between the tourism and tech sectors to spark new innovations, offerings, and product delivery. To kick off our Tourism Plus Tech initiative, the lab has partnered with the incredible team at WEtech Alliance to launch this Digital Shift virtual workshop series. My colleague Adam Castle, Director of Venture Services for WEtech, who's waving there, will be leading the first half of today's session, outlining tangible tools small businesses and organizations can use to initiate and test new digital ideas. From there, we'll move on to a Zoom-side chat with multi-award-winning tourism innovators, shift experts, and good friends of mine, Adriano and Pina Ciotoli, who are co-owners of Windsor Eats. We'll learn how they have pivoted as a result of the current crisis and discuss and chat about opportunities that they might share that they're finding through a focus on backyard tourism. We have an exciting slate of shift experts in this monthly series. Join us next on June 16th for our virtual workshop featuring shift experts from Belleville Downtown District BIA. We'll be discussing their innovative online marketplace initiative. So looking forward to that. Stay tuned for information and registration details. So with that, that's kind of my quick intro. Again, hello to everyone. Really excited that we have people from across the province joining us. And I will now hand the reins over to Adam Castle, Director of Venture Services for WEtech Alliance.
Thanks so much, Justin, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So I'm just gonna throw on my screen here. Perfect. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Just a couple early disclaimers. So first, I do have a wild beagle that may get quite loud during today's broadcast. So if that happens, please excuse it. And second, we really hope that today is a great learning opportunity for everybody. And please give us lots of feedback in the Q&A section. We'll be taking questions and answers throughout the broadcast. So thank you so much, Justin, for that wonderful welcome. And thank you everyone for being here today. As Justin mentioned, my name is Adam Castle, and I'm the Director of Venture Services for WEtech Alliance. I've spent the last 7 years working in economic development, and have worked with hundreds of companies across our region on growth strategy and business development. WEtech Alliance is a regional innovation center, one of 17 across Ontario, and our mandate is to help tech companies scale and grow in Windsor, Essex, and Chatham-Kent. We're so excited to collaborate with the lab to bring our customized business development tools and templates to a province-wide tourism sector audience. We work with a lot of startups at WEtech Alliance, and what we're going to teach you today is a framework that we see them use in order to rapidly test out new ideas in a way that's relatively safe and low risk. There will be some time at the end of my overview to ask questions, of course, as well, and before we jump into our Zoom side chat with Windsor Eats. I wanted to start off by framing up what we define as a digital shift. For a very long time at WEtech Alliance and around our network, we said that every business is a tech business, even if they don't quite know it yet. And yes, that includes yours. What we mean by that is taking technology and putting it at the very core of what you do as entrepreneurs. Perhaps your products or services aren't tech forward. However, now more than ever, small businesses need to incorporate technology in order to ensure your value can still be delivered in safe and, most importantly, sustainable ways. We believe there's a real value in thinking like a startup at this time because startups operate under a few very key principles that really help them excel under uncertainty. In fact, many believe that early startups are already businesses, but truthfully, that's a myth. They're organized experiments, testing out their assumptions and searching for a business model that fits around their product. They teach us to do a couple things really well. The first, of course, is disregard the status quo. Startups are never happy with what exists. They're only happy with what they can create next. Next is to be curious, make mistakes, and get messy. And if you notice that this is a direct quote from the Magic School Bus, you're right. It probably taught me everything that I've ever learned. But beyond that, it's really important that you're not afraid to fail. In fact, failure is a major part of being a startup, and what makes them so special is being able to bounce back, which really leads us to number 3, which is failing fast, learning deep, and pivoting. And what I mean by failing fast is understanding whether or not something is going to work in the shortest amount of time possible, learning everything you can from that experience, and then pivoting into something that is going to work a little bit better for you. Now, going into today's workshop, we really understand that many of us, everyone joining the call, are facing extremely uncertain and difficult times. Ultimately, we want to offer this as a tool to help navigate the redesign of what's going to be the tourism industry 2.0 for Ontario and small businesses. And this is going on across Ontario and really around the world. We understand that as business owners, we're all sort of facing the same storm, but we're certainly not in the same boat. We also believe now is this perfect time to run these fast and highly valuable experiments within your business as a way to explore new opportunities and test things out before you commit to them long term. We're so grateful to have our shift experts, Windsor Eats, here with us today because Adriano and Pina are amazing innovators in the space. They've gone through several pivots, not just recently, but over time. And we see backyard tourism as what will be the new frontier throughout the next several phases of this COVID-19 pandemic. Exploring close to home provides unique opportunities for operators to turn locals into a customer base. We're going to hear more from Windsor Eats a bit later, but now we'll use one of their offerings as an example to run through our digital shift workbook with you. On April 15th, Windsor Eats launched the all-new Bevy Box, an at-home delivery experience that includes incredible out-of-the-box partnerships with local businesses, breweries, distilleries, and wineries. Now, one of my absolute favorites examples in this box is the book club, which includes a monthly book selection from a local publisher, online space to discuss the read with others who order the experience, and local wine as well. Windsor Eats has won several awards for their innovations in the tourism space, and one of the ways they've stayed on the cutting edge is to use those startup principles we opened up with to move their ideas forward. So let's dive into the tool and see how we can teach you the same kind of framework needed to think like a startup as well. So you've all received a copy of our digital shift workbook that we provided to you. A lot of this information can actually be found inside the tool itself, so we can really go through today and sort of chat it out right now. We started the tool with a couple of pieces of Mad Lib entertainment for you, and it's really important to standardize these 2 cornerstone statements, the hypothesis and your value proposition. They're going to help guide you as standards across every single experiment you run. We recommend that all of your experiments are run for a minimum of 4 weeks so you can properly assess them. So let's get started. So starting with our digital hypothesis, which is really just a fancy way of saying that this is my best guess. It really helps us to clarify our assumptions. The beautiful part about this tool is that it isn't just for your biggest and best ideas. It can actually be used for any idea you have and want to test out within your business. Before something becomes core to what you do, it's really important to test everything to make sure that what we think we know is actually the same as what we know. This is the same method we've taught to hundreds of startups who traditionally have very few resources outside of their amazing brains. There is a myth that you need this bunch of funding in order to start a tech business, and that has 100% been proven false. The same goes for these experiments. They are low cost and low risk. We put a framework around these things because it helps you to really understand what's worth doing long term and what maybe needs to be retired. The hypothesis is actually what scientists use as they're doing experiments as well. So you might remember that from high school science classes. Really, what you're going to do through this part is at the beginning of each experiment, sort out these 4 key assumptions. 1, we believe that this testable action, and in the case of Windsor Eats, which we'll be using as an example, is that at-home local experiences can provide a new stream of revenue while highlighting unique local businesses. They will be using an out-of-the-box e-commerce solution to do this, similar to Shopify or Squarespace. There's actually a whole bunch that are available out there. And what's great about all of these out-of-the-box solutions is you don't have to pay for customization of these items. They often have templates that are free to use or nearly free, and many times have free trials too. So you can actually get everything up and running. Now, a number of these also have special COVID sales on right now, or COVID introductory offers. So for example, Shopify has an introductory offer that's 90 days worth completely free for you to try out and develop your own online store. So keep an eye out for these because we look to see a lot more of these opportunities come out, driving sort of technology into the hands of these small businesses. Now, after that, the idea here is that using this out-of-box e-commerce solution, we're going to try and drive additional revenue to create new partnerships, right? Really important. How are we going to test its effectiveness? This is sort of the linchpin, and how we're going to make sure whether or not these experiments are something that we should continue on with. We're going to test the effectiveness of this particular experiment by doing a little bit of data collection around the number of boxes delivered, the number of business and customer feedback, or the quality of business and customer feedback, I should say, the sustainability, whether or not we can continue to do this long term. And then we can look at things like logistics. How many of these boxes are we actually able to deliver in time in order for people to get them? Do we need additional staff or additional resources in order to get it done? And what is sort of the capacity cap that allows us to serve how many clients, right? So how many clients do we want to serve, or how many customers, and what's going to stop us from doing that? So all of those things sort of go into your digital hypothesis, right? What you believe, what you're going to use, what you believe will drive your outcomes, and how you're going to test that effectiveness. The next is the value proposition. And you can see how we're starting to sort of frame this up now. The value prop is really the North Star statement of your experiment and your business. It helps build everything from marketing and communication messages to products and innovation. Some may call it the elevator pitch. We've heard it called that before, or a positioning statement if you want to. But really what matters most is that if you stay true to the value you wanted to initially deliver, then you create your idea. You're not going to get lost on even the most adventurous of digital shift experiments. So use this as a way to really hone in what it is you want to deliver and to whom. You know, in the case of backyard tourism, we of course want to serve local consumers who are looking for new forms of entertainment and interaction while staying safe and keeping socially distant. Our Bevy Box experience provides an at-home event that surprises, delights, and appeals to a wide variety of consumers. Unlike other subscription boxes available on the market, this one is fully local to Windsor, Essex, supports local businesses and organizations, and by featuring home-delivered alcohol, it's still a very novel product. It can be delivered in a very short amount of time, and this is really key because we know that Canada Post and FedEx, etc., are all dealing with Christmas-level package deliveries every single day right now. That's mostly me. I order a lot of things from Amazon Prime and local businesses as well. But really, you know, there's going to be delays. So having local logistics on the ground is a huge differentiator. And that's another big piece to this statement, is that you want to make sure what makes you different is also what people see as one of the first things about your product. They're going to be drawing comparisons anyway, so making sure that it's sort of in the face. So these two pillars pillars are deceptively simple to fill out. I encourage you to take some time to really plan them carefully, though. We're not going to fill in the rest of the tool quite as particularly as we did because I know we want to get to the conversation. But those first two pieces, I really hope give you an outline of how you can actually adapt this to your own ideas. Setting up these first two key statements is absolutely crucial to be able to get the most out of this tool. So moving into our customer control group. Now, you don't want to roll out your experiment to every customer you have. It's more time and effort invested into something that may or may not be sustainable long term. So you really want to choose your control groups carefully and ensure they represent a good variety of your overall customer base. Using this box, you really want to define some factors you're going to use to determine the sample size and customers you're going to test this out with. So for example, if it's every fifth customer that makes an order, you're going to try a different offer, then perhaps that's a factor that you can include in here. Or if it's with a certain age group, an example of the Bevy Box, we're only targeting people over 19 years old that are legal drinking age in Ontario. So with those things in mind, we can really look at who we're trying to target and now determine whether or not they're a fit for the experiment. You want to move from there into your channels engagement sort of section. Now, communication is everything as a small business. I don't have to tell you that, you already know. You can connect with your customers in direct and productive ways. So what's the best way to get the word out about your new offering? And how are we going to hold our customers' hands to ensure they have the experience we want them to have? What's really interesting here is that giant businesses like Apple and Amazon only wish they had the kind of control you have over getting feedback. So as a small business, you're able to directly connect, and that means all of the feedback you get is firsthand and so incredibly valuable, right? It's not aggregated. It's not, 5-star ratings across a giant sort of database. It's these really intimate connections that you're having with your customers to say, how did we do? What can we do better? What do you like? And what are you looking for? So you're going to use this box to really answer the question around how you plan on getting the word out to let your customer control group know about this exciting new idea. Now we move into the metrics piece. Now, the effectiveness of a business experiment entirely depends on your ability as a business to observe outcomes. Now, I already said this, but the beauty of being this small business, or even a relatively small business, is that you're working directly with your customers. You can observe them more effectively than any other business out there. It's really a superpower, and I can't stress this enough, for driving innovation. One of the things we always tell our clients is that if you treasure it, you measure it. So whether in this case it's revenue, customer satisfaction, number of referrals, repeat purchases, or profit margins, what you measure will change based on your experiment. However, what's important is to ensure that you're able to measure easily and that you make the time needed to digest all of that beautiful data you're creating. Taking the time to work on your business is just as important as taking the time to work in it. In this box, you're going to list the things that you intend to measure in order to ensure you have enough information at the end of the day or at the end of the experiment to decide whether this experiment is something wonderful or maybe worth fizzling out. So moving into our workflow and mechanics portion, this section is really your how, and it's the perfect space to get very particular about the execution of your experiment. There's this very old joke that asks, how do you eat an elephant? And ends, of course, in one bite at a time. Let's see, I have a pause for laughter in here. Anyways, your experiment may seem like an elephant, so breaking them down into very small bites can help. I know it's a lot easier said than done. So what I'd suggest is taking the time to break everything down into smaller tasks. If you're having trouble identifying tasks, start out by asking yourself which steps need to be performed for the project to be finished and work backwards. So start with your goal in mind and work all the way back to make sure all of the milestones that need to be hit get done. Breaking down a project according to the crucial task can help you divide it into larger chunks or milestones. And you may notice that we've actually included a 30, 60, 90-day tracker as part of the workbook. Once you have the basics laid out here, you can break it down even further in this timeline. Take everything week by week in your experiments and use what you learned this week to power changes and tweaks that you want to make next week. In the tracking section, you're going to be identifying everything based on the metrics you've defined. Tracking what the overall outcome is that you've observed, the date measured, because you're going to do this more than once over the life of the experiment, The change, plus or minus, whether that's in numbers, percentages, you can decide. And from where you first started, especially, right? You want to take a baseline of where you're starting to know where you've come. And then any additional notes you may have on the process. And it's important here that you're noting the process, because if this becomes something that you want to offer on a sort of widespread basis, you're going to want to be able to turn it into a system that you can repeat and scale, right? So with those things in mind, we really hope that this process provides you a ton of opportunity to learn. By tracking these things carefully, you'll be way more likely to remember the final details when it comes time to assess all your results. We recommend, again, running these experiments no less than a full month to be able to draw the best possible picture of its effects. And when we say run it for a month, what I really mean is that 1 month in the hands of your customers. The setup or sort of thought process around it, getting it ready to go, that doesn't count for the overall runtime. So 1 month offered to customers. Moving into your results section, by answering these 3 questions, we sort of hope that you should be able to really make somewhat of a judgment call at this point. Do you want to lean in, learn more, or halt? Leaning in means growing the experiment into a full-time offering. Learning more means extending the experiment time, maybe changing up some of your approach based on feedback that you've gotten from customers or other businesses, or plugging in new answers into your map as you adjust to your sort of overall sort of feedback from customers and partners. You know, why this is so important is because yeses and nos are equally valuable in the world of startups. Hard data they provide can allow you to make really important decisions. To be honest with you, the maybes are absolutely the worst in this sort of experience and in this sort of world. So if you decide the experiment is a halt, we also hope you decide to take your learning lesson and apply them to your next big idea. And here's the thing, rest assured, you're going to have so many more big ideas. Actually, we've done some research, and there's a lot that says that tracking ideas like this, putting them into a framework, just putting them down, actually acts as a basic greenhouse for growing more ideas. You know, creativity is really this muscle, and it can be exercised to improve on like any other. Now, the box for your next steps is really simple. Do you create a system to scale up this experiment, decide in our results, or are we going to decide to move on to our next aha moment? Now, remember to come back and finish this last box after you've made your ultimate decision. So speaking of making sort of ultimate decisions, here's the second part to this tool entirely. It comes in the form of what we're calling the digital shift. We have a question here. Will we be sending out the recording? Yes, we will certainly be sending out the recording at some point in the near future. We can also talk a little bit more about that as I go through. Let's make sure that I'm still sharing this. Wonderful. So the calculator is really designed to be super intuitive and easy to use. It isn't all about the numbers here, though, as you can tell. We know that you know whether or not something is a good idea based on the math. You're brilliant business owners, and you've been doing it a really long time. So we wanted to measure some of the softer factors that we feel are just as important in order to help inform your decisions. We developed up these 9 factors to really assess the long-term sustainability of these experiments. And so the idea here is go through the 30, 60, 90, run 3 really great experiments, and at the end of that 3-month period, use this calculator to decide what to keep and what to leave sort of on the drawing room floor. So you're going to go through and you're going to rank everything on these 9 factors based on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you strongly disagree based on the evidence that you've collected, and 10 being you strongly agree based on your evidence. It calculates everything for you, and you'll get a score at the bottom on a scale of 1 to 100. Based on the score, you should have a pretty good idea whether or not something is worth pursuing, or if it needs more work to hit more of these factors in a meaningful way. So we designed this tool to include a standalone guide that you can go through on your own, but also a reminder that we're going to have 5 of these workshops geared towards different industries under the tourism umbrella. We really encourage you to sit on those as well, because they offer different sort of perspectives, different outtakes, and we're going to include a lot of amazing shift experts as well. We're also including this link inside of your package that actually sets out the directory for all the small business enterprise centers across Ontario. So even though WEtech Alliance is in Windsor, Essex, and Chatham-Kent, we want you still to be able to connect to your SPECs, and they'll be able to also connect you to fellow RICs, or Regional Innovation Centers. So fear not if this all seems a little overwhelming. You've got your tools now, and we're going to give you everything you need in order to make sure that those experiments that you're running are going to get up and going and be successful. So right now we have a couple minutes actually to get a few questions out of the way about the Shift workbook before we jump into the conversation with our incredible Shift experts. So I'll just hop back on camera. And again, the Q&A session is open if you have any questions. And dead air. Yes, Joanne. Oops. Joanne, you can enter your question in the Q&A piece. Yes, hey Kevin. So the workbook was sent out via email. It will come to you as part of your ticket from Eventbrite. And so please let us know if you have trouble finding that. We can always resend to attendees after this. Awesome, fantastic. So at this point, I believe we've got a question. You mentioned you're sharing recording, but also the tools. Yes, absolutely. So if anyone signed up through Eventbrite, which you all should have, this will actually connect you directly to the tools. We can also resend them at the end of this. You'll also be getting a link to a small survey as well to make sure that we're making the impact we want here. Perfect. All right. I will. I'll now turn it over to Justin, where we're going to be doing our Zoom side chat.
All right. Can you hear me okay, Adam?
I certainly can.
Hopefully everyone else can. Thank you so much, Adam. Adam's amazing. If you guys ever get a chance to cross paths with him, clearly he's a super smart and creative guy, and really excited to be working with him and collaborating with WEtech on this digital shift series. And again, this is our hope, was to help kind of link and deliver some of the expertise that we have in the province in our technology organization sector, and all the great work that WEtech and its partners in networks across the province do. So again, we will ensure that you guys have the toolkits. If anyone has any questions, contact us at the lab. We have recorded this session, so we will be providing that for folks as well. And I can't remember whether you said this, Adam, but we do have a series of these. So this is the first in a series. So we'll be doing our next one on June 16th, and we'll be having Adam do the same run through. So I know for me, there's a lot of great information to take in, but if you want to kind of have a refresher and kind of walk through it again with Adam, that opportunity will be available for anybody that wants to rejoin on June 16th or on the dates following that through the summer. So again, thank you so much, Adam. Now we're going to move on to the Zoom side chat, and we have talked about Windsor Eats. They're incredible folks, and they've done incredible work over the last, I think, 15 years or more, innovating in every space they've kind of gotten into. And of course, with everything that's happened in the last 2 months, with the world changing and the industry being flipped on its head, we thought they would be a great business to include in kind of talking about pivoting, using technology and other opportunities that they might see through their experience, both over the last 15 years running Windsor Eats, but also in the last 2 months where everybody's sort of scrambled to pivot. So I'm not sure if Adriano and Pina, are you on the line, and can you hear me?
Absolutely.
All
Yes.
right. There we go.
Disembodied heads.
So that's a great, that photo everyone saw was from Friday Night Lights. Windsor Eats does this amazing group ride every second Friday through the summer here in Windsor. And when everything kind of gets back to somewhat of a normal state, encourage anyone out there across the province to come visit us here and take part in some of Windsor Eats' amazing offerings. So with that, I'll once again welcome Adriano and Pina Ciotoli, co-owners of Windsor Eats. Adam ran through his amazing tool using their Bevy Box, which is a new initiative as a sample so that you all could sort of see how the tool would work and how you would plug in an idea like the Bevy Box into that template. So I'll first get Adriano and Pina just to say hello, and maybe just for those across the province who may not have heard of Windsor Eats, tell them what you do and what you normally offer.
Go ahead, P.
I was like, waiting for you. So I'm Pina. I'm co-owner of Windsor Eats. And thank you, first of all, for having us. I'm pretty excited about this whole thing. I've been loving watching everybody kind of do their pandemic pivots the last couple months. But Windsor Eats, we wear many hats. Adriano was talking about this morning that we're a beast with many heads. We organize events and festivals in our region. We're a curator of food and drink events and establishments within Windsor and Essex County. A huge promoter of locally owned and established businesses within our industry. Again, so many things that we do, but that's kind of just the gist of it.
Yeah, and I want to add as well, Pina mentioned it, and again, thank you for having us. But we are a beast with many heads, and really our main, or one of our main focus, and it's kind of obviously in the middle of shifting, but we do market Windsor as a destination with a focus on culinary. And that's not just restaurants and cafes and breweries and wineries, but really any food-based businesses.
Great. And again, you started, when did you found the business? It's been around for about 15 years or so?
Yeah, 2004.
Wow.
2004 was when it started as just a little twinkle of being a simple menu guide. Because back then there was really, I mean, there was a list that gave you a name, address, phone number of the restaurants, and that was pretty much it. And I mean, this is really before Google went, and then many others went full on with focusing on local as well, and providing that technology. So that's how Windsor Eats started, was give people a more detailed and hyper local way to discover the Windsor culinary scene.
So I know 2020 probably started out like for you, like it did for most of us, where we were like, 2020 is going to be such a great year. It's going to be my year. We're going to do it. We're going to try new things. We're just going to, right?
Oh, we were saying that in 2019. Oh, 2020, it's coming. It's going to be great. It's going to be a big one.
we were so ready to close the books on 2019, and we were betting everything on 2020, but sadly.
I think by mid-January, end of January, we were already like, all right, 2021. That's going to be the year.
That's going to be our year.
So, but you know, yeah, exactly. Maybe we should start the year with something, a different way to kind of start a new year after all of this. But you know, in all seriousness, I know you guys, and you had a lot on the go. You were in the midst of planning a number of big things for 2020 through January, February, early March, I guess, and then you know the ground started shifting for all of us around the world. And then mid-March, you know, of course, was sort of the time that the world changed. So kind of initially, you know, from a small business perspective, and knowing that you're kind of rolling out all of these different activities that at that point become less clear if they're possible. Like, what was your initial reaction, you know, just in terms of being a small business and being in tourism and offering experiences that include groups of people, events, festivals? What was the kind of initial experience around all of that?
So we started noticing something was going on in early January, and I know I was keeping track of it through like a GIS kind of data mapper. And I kept saying to Adriano, have you seen what's going on here? In February, when it hit Italy, it kind of took a different kind of toll. And we started thinking about what would happen if that came to Canada, like if that was happening in Canada, what would we do? So we were kind of in a mind frame, like, what would we do in that situation? It was just kind of light discussion we were having, you know. Actually, we were in the process of a couple weeks before the official pandemic was announced, we were actually about to sign a lease on a pretty significant building, and the whole business plan was revolving around gatherings and people coming together. And as we were sitting down with our realtor, I kind of just said, you know, I've been watching this. Worst case scenario, what happens if, say, I don't know, like a global pandemic were to happen? Like, where does our lease agreement fall on that? And she didn't know. We called our insurance. They were like, we don't know. We don't know if you're covered for that or not. We've never been in that situation before. We didn't go with that lease, obviously, because then the next week, well, guess what? A global pandemic happened.
I think we actually officially pulled the plug on the day that everything closed down.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure a realtor thought we were probably, you know, worst case scenario, you know, who's going to think that a global pandemic is coming our way? But there it was. So yeah, so we were kind of in the back of our minds, kind of watching what was going on everywhere else, much like everybody else was. And then as things were escalating here in Canada, we started doing lives to keep people updated as to what was happening. And within the week, right, Adriano, like things were changing rapidly. Yeah. So we were on Facebook and Instagram doing lives pretty much every day, every other day, to let people know what was starting to close, what was taking place within our industry, and what to expect.
And I guess, you know, we've seen lots of great webinars and things like that there about communicating. And I think what you just described, you were sort of right up at the beginning of all of this when it got really critical. You seem to really ensure that you were keeping the communication lines open with your followers and, you know, customers, and probably even your suppliers and other folks. Was that kind of a strategy or coming together near the end, you know, through these lives?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. I mean, one of the key things, especially in times and when I don't want to say situations like this happen, because I don't know when a situation like this is, you know, it doesn't happen all the time. But when there are kind of emergencies that do happen, communication is the most important thing, especially right off the get-go. And so we wanted to make sure, and we saw it happen with a bunch of businesses and a bunch of organizations where it was almost radio silence. No one knew what to do. And so they kind of retreated and regrouped to figure out what they were going to do before going forward. And we looked at it as, I mean, over the years, since doing this since 2004, we've built a lot of great relationships with the businesses and the owners that we deal with. And we wanted to make sure that they didn't feel lost and not abandoned, but kind of looking for answers and no one being able to provide them. So we wanted to make sure that there was at least a flow of information going to them, both the customers who visited us for looking where to eat and things to do, but also the businesses themselves. And we looked at it almost, Pina and I kind of have put together a plan. I call it more mitigate, organize, restart, evolve. And the first thing was basically about the mitigation. And the best way to mitigate things is to provide yourself with as much knowledge and information as possible. And we were just trying to share that with all the businesses that we dealt with.
And the webinars were a key component in that. So some of the first initial webinars that we were doing, that we partnered with Southwest Ontario Tourism, was with accounting, with unemployment, with you know, things related around staffing issues, and we had local experts kind of jump on board with us to kind of help navigate, because it was, if you remember, it was you know, a lot of information coming at us that was changing daily. So we were trying to help people navigate that as best we could. We were posting articles on Windsor Eats to kind of help provide people with links to where to get up-to-date information so that they were prepared and knowledgeable when they were making decisions. And then most recently, we started conducting surveys, lots of videos to kind of help navigate various aspects of what we do. The list kind of goes on.
And it wasn't even just local experts as well. We were actually fortunate enough to bring in some international experts from Europe on dealing with crisis and marketing as well, and providing steps to market your way out of a crisis. So we really, we looked at it as a huge opportunity, and a lot of people were doing the same to reach out to people who would normally be extremely busy, that now all of a sudden had the luxury of time available to them.
I think those webinars you guys did were amazing. I was just going to say, for those listening in who may not have seen those, are they still accessible? How can folks in our audience see some of the webinars that you just talked about?
Absolutely. Almost every single one is available on our Facebook page. We've recorded them all. They're all in there. We had one earlier today about the future of dining. That one, it has a lot of the information from our survey in there as well that we conducted that had over 500 responses. We haven't posted that one yet, but we're still trying to decide. That one's likely just to be going out to the hospitality industry here in Windsor, Essex. The survey was really heavily focused on the Windsor market. So we may be handing that out to, or we will be handing that out to the hospitality industry here shortly.
Awesome. I just have a quick question from the crowd out there. Just, you know, you guys are talking so much about communication, so I think this fits right in here. So Veronica Samick, who I think we all know from Windsor, Essex, she said, you know, we're focused a lot about digital tools, but how do you recommend onboarding your customers and bringing them along on that digital shift path too? So how can you get them to gain digital skills as you're sort of upping your game at the same time?
I've noticed a lot of people kind of starting to develop those skills. If they weren't on Instagram or Facebook before, I'm hearing about a lot of people that are now on Instagram and Zooming. For, you know, who had heard of Zoom before this, right? So now we're kind of adapting to a new reality, a new way of doing things, and a lot of people are picking up those skills. My mom FaceTimed me the other night. It's never happened before, but she did it, and it was great for her. She's like in her 70s, right? So she's kind of learning how to do those kinds of things.
Well, and this is the time where people have to make that leap. It doesn't matter if things are uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if you don't have the confidence to do it. You almost have to, because everyone is in the same boat. Just jump into it. And a lot of people know me for being fairly blunt when I discuss things, but for a lot of people, if they haven't stepped into that world yet and they're still not willing to jump into it, that's going to be very troubling for them in terms of when a recovery does start happening, whether they're going to be left behind or not. Because it's if it wasn't integral before, it is absolutely necessary to be digital and on board now. And a lot of that is just teaching yourself. I mean, things like Facebook and Instagram is all about trial and error, much like what your sheet in your workbook was saying. A lot of it is trial and error and going through it. Yeah, there's skills and strategies, but for really everyone's audience is completely different, and you have to adjust and adapt to who your audience is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I'm thinking too that, you know, I share my mother in her mid-70s. She's now a huge fan of Facebook Messenger video calls and all of that. And it just makes me think folks of all ages being more accessible through digital platforms, almost the opportunity to grow certain markets that you may not have been able to reach before because folks might not have been on social media or known how to utilize some of the tools. to ultimately access some of your products and experiences. I wanted to sort of ask you about the process. So you talked about, you know, the webinars and communicating with not just your customers, but your partners, your suppliers in the early days, or you know, in the very dark early days, if you will, of everything back in late March. But I know that you had a number of things that were planned through the spring, revenue opportunities for, you know, at the end of the day, you're a small business. You had to pivot, and Adam did a great job, again, highlighting your Bevy box. I was wondering if you could share with us and everybody listening, just kind of your thought process, maybe at the beginning of April, where you're starting to essentially out of survival mode, look at new ways to support your customers, deliver to your customers, and also partner with other organizations. So the Bevy box being one of them, but can you share with us how all of that kind of came together and how you pivoted in that time?
Yeah, for sure. So the Bevy box idea, I feel like it was like in the back of our mind for quite some time, kind of marinating back there. And when probably the last week of March, we approached our contact here for the AGCO and began the process of kind of thinking about, if, you know, there are subscription boxes out there. If we wanted to do something that included local producers like craft brewers, wineries, distillers, what do we need to do that? And we started kind of hashing out this idea of a box. At first it started off like a subscription idea, but we realized locally that probably wouldn't work out for the time being. But the Bevy box was an idea where we could still support our local producers and ourselves.
Well, but also more important, even staying true to who Windsor Eats is and what our brand is as well. Yes, we were pivoting, but we were still staying true to what the business and our goals were with the business and what the mission was for the business.
Yes, because the box is a truly local box, right? So we have our craft brewers, wineries, distilleries, but it's not just alcohol based. There are other options aside from the alcohol. Like you mentioned, the book club. We've partnered with the Butcher of Kingsville, with Robbie's Sausages to create barbecue kits. Black's Bakeries provides the buns. And we've kind of tried to include as many local businesses as we can for the box itself. And it's worked out quite well, probably better than we thought it was gonna, because here's the thing, like, this is happening fast. It took us 3 weeks just to navigate the AGCO.
More than 3, it took us over a month.
Yeah, so as soon as the pandemic hit, we contacted the AGCO to figure out, we gave them some examples of what other people were doing. I'll let Adriano explain that. But in terms of licensing, because we knew others were doing it, we just wanted to take an idea with our own spin on it and make it so that we were supporting our local small businesses. Yeah, that took quite some time to navigate exactly what license we needed to do that, which opens up a whole other box of, when this is all over, or hopefully soon, let's all take a look at licensing with the AGCO and see how we can improve that. But yeah, so we kind of pieced the Bevy box together rather quickly, and as Adriano mentioned, marketing through a crisis is a whole other ball game. But you get this amazing opportunity to throw ideas out there and see kind of what sticks. So like I mentioned, we thought we were going to do subscriptions, but we quickly realized that wasn't going to work for our market, and we shifted immediately into just a weekly delivery box, and people just order every week, and there's a deadline every Tuesday at 4 p.m. and we deliver Fridays and Saturdays, and that's what's working for us right now.
Well, and Pina makes a great point as well, because our big belief during all this, and as we've been doing it, we've been hearing more and more professionals and experts saying it, that now, if you ever had that book of crazy ideas that you kept putting on the back burner, or you wondered, maybe I shouldn't run this as too crazy an idea or as too weird an idea, now's the time to be putting those out there. A lot of people, especially in the tourism industry, are saying, throw it all out there, put it all out there to market, because even right now, the customer that you once knew to some extent is completely different, and they're creating new habits right now as well. And so it's been interesting to see what's actually been successful for a lot of businesses and not, and some of them you would never in a million years would have been successful before.
I was going to ask what the response has been.
It's actually been amazing. So in the 4 weeks that we've been delivering, so we've had 4 delivery dates, and we've sold over 344 boxes. Or I say boxes, but again, we are in a global pandemic. They're currently in bags with the idea that one day it'll be in a box.
Yeah.
That Bevy bag just doesn't sound quite as good.
No.
But also,
So good on you for marketing it well.
As we were doing our ordering for the packaging, I mean, the bags which we ordered on a 1-day delivery came about 2.5 weeks later, 2 weeks later. And so we were panicking because the actual boxes or the packaging to start delivering actually arrived, was it the day before? No, day of. They arrived the day of that our packaging was supposed to go out, because we did not anticipate a 1-day delivery to turn into 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of nuts, but it has gone really well. People have been really, really supportive of it, really receptive to it. I was doing kind of before this, I was kind of doing a quick breakdown of things that we've sold. So we've sold, what was it? Over 288 bottles of wine, 1,218 individual beers. The list kind of goes on, but it's been great to kind of see people love it, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from it, and people are ordering it for themselves, for their moms, their dads, healthcare workers. I've had a few that kind of sent one to a healthcare worker, and we've added a note for them on it. So it's been really, really great to see.
And it's been constantly changing as well. We've been making tweaks and adjustments and adding new products every week, and we're actually working on expanding it even further in the coming couple weeks. So
this is where like the ideas start kind of, we have all these ideas of, now that we've got this going, like what can we add to it, and all those crazy ideas that you had in the past, and we never really had the time to develop them, because from May to October is our tourism season, and it just gets really crazy, and we don't have time to breathe. But now we have lots of time, so not all the time in the world. And so this has been a perfect opportunity to kind of take ideas and run with them.
So I think many of us are always curious about, customers or these brand new sort of expectations about safety and health. How did that play in, and how did you decide, like in terms of, you mentioned the bags and everything from the delivery. This is so key for all of us going into the next season and beyond.
So we make sure that Adriano is basically the only person doing delivery at this point. So we've equipped him with.
And let me add as well that I have gained a whole new respect for anyone who provides a delivery service, because it was definitely a learning experience. There was a couple times I just wanted to pull over on the side of the road and just curl up into a ball in a ditch and cry, because it was definitely a learning experience. And thankfully, that's even where some technology came in to help, as we used some route planning software to take away the stress.
I was actually going to ask, like, could you elaborate a little bit on some of those learnings and challenges, and how technology might have supported the pivot itself, but also the delivery and, follow through with your customers?
Sure. So I think our first week was probably the most chaotic week, where we had really no idea what it would take to deliver that amount of Bevy boxes in Windsor and Essex County. Anywhere from Windsor, Ontario to, did you know we have a Staples, Ontario? So yes, now I know. So all across the county, and we were using Google Maps. Adriano and I have different strategies on how to map out postal codes and addresses. He downloaded an app where he inputs all his addresses and it kind of maps it out for him. I've been a keen user of Google Maps, and I kind of sort everything out by postal codes and section out the city and the county by postal codes.
And I don't have time for that. So I actually, it was a subscription software. It was fantastic. It was simple, called Circuit. And it was just $20 a month. And I just have to upload a spreadsheet to the app in my phone. It takes all the addresses that are in it. And then all I have to do is press a button that says optimize route, and it gives me the best order to deliver every single address. And so that was kind of the lifesaver for me that made delivery from an absolute nightmare in week one to actually seeing the light a little bit and saying, okay, I might want to do this week 3 and continue on with the deliveries.
And we've learned that just because it says it's going to take you 5.5 hours to deliver, that does not mean it's going to take you 5.5 hours. It'll take you much longer than that.
We actually have a question here. How big is your delivery fleet that you're using right now? And I say fleet loosely.
It's one person.
Yeah,
right here. It's right. It's right here. I am the entire fleet. So
it's just in order to help minimize contact, we've just designated Adriano to do that. I'm a backup should he need it. That if he needed someone else to kind of join in, or if he's behind and we're realizing we're not going to get the deliveries out that day, I'll jump in and kind of help. But we kind of make sure that we minimize the amount of people we have to just the one.
And it's all contactless. So, you know, I have the mask and the gloves on and all my sanitizer in the car. The rules are really interesting with the AGCO. So it's placed on their porch, either ring the doorbell or knock the door. AGCO does require, you do have to check ID. We have implemented another piece of software that we haven't seen anyone use locally anyways, or at least anyone locally using it. But you can't make the purchase online without having your ID verified. So you actually have to take the photo of your ID, upload it, and then the system actually verifies it based on any and all information that is available to them on you in the public domain, and verifies your ID. And we've had an amazing success with it because for us, it makes us feel more confident that we are not breaking any laws as far as serving alcohol or delivering alcohol.
So great. Well, we're getting close to 4. We knew that you'd have so much to share, and Adam's a great presentation. We're going to go over the time over 4 o'clock. So for those listening, please stay with us if you can. We'll have a few more questions and opportunities to ask questions from our audience. So Adam will chime in with those. And also, again, this will be recorded, so we'll share that at a future date. And of course, let you know about our upcoming virtual workshops, the next one being June 16th. But back to Adriano and Pina. So where do things go from here? You know, I know that when we sort of talked about this webinar and our conversation today, we had talked about, you know, how this whole crisis has changed planning and your planning processes. Maybe you could talk about that and also talk about what you are planning now that things are sort of moving forward and changing again.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a planning process, I mean, Pina and I normally when we're planning new products, new events, you know, new initiatives, there is a lot of background work that goes into it and kind of a structure that is gone through. But with what's happening now, everything has been moving so quickly. that, and this doesn't necessarily work for everyone, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's for everyone, but moving quickly is of utmost importance right now, especially in the hospitality industry and tourism industry, which have been absolutely crippled by the pandemic. A lot of the planning parts that we would normally do for a lot of our stuff, we've had to kind of drop a little bit. And it's definitely been a lot more of the trial and error and learning as we're going along and making the adjustments as we're going along, versus having it work perfectly, in tune right from the get-go, just to make sure that we are, because at the end of the day, we are a business, making sure that we are showing leadership for the businesses that we're representing, being able to showcase them to others, but also obviously create a revenue stream for us in the best way possible. So the planning of what we've been doing has definitely been that cannonball into the pool versus dipping your toe in.
So you've talked about some of the webinars you've had and special guests. Can you share, actually, before I ask this question, Adam, are there any audience questions out there that you wanted to ask Adriano and Pina?
Yeah, for sure. So one really interesting one came through from Kelly Johnson, which is, how is your customer different now than before the Bevy Box? So how has that sort of shifted now that you offer sort of this new product? They said that they suspect it as a much more local consumer, but I know you've always done backyard tourism. But what has that shift sort of been since you've implemented it?
It surprisingly, and I mentioned this earlier, was even though we were pivoting what our product was, we weren't necessarily pivoting who our customer was. So a lot of the customers that we're still getting now, and we are big fans of technology and using software and being able to get your metrics in place. I'm a huge data nerd when it comes to stuff like that. So we used to use a booking company, and still do. Unfortunately, we're not doing tours right now, but for our tours and events, Fair Harbor allowed us to be able to collect any and all information that we needed to be able to make the best decisions and most cost-effective decisions when it would come to marketing for who our customers were. And so that pretty much carried over, because when we started doing the Bevy Box, because our previous booking system was more geared towards experiences, the Bevy Box was obviously a product versus an experience. So we actually shifted that over into Shopify, but we still had all the data as to who our customers were. So it was really seamless, because now, no one can go out to the breweries, no one can go out to the wineries on the bikes when we're bringing them, or the bar hops or whatever that we're doing, the festivals and events. We're bringing it to their doorstep. So we were still being able to provide them the same products and showcase the same businesses we were doing, just packaged a little differently. So not surprisingly, but the customer has pretty much remained the same. I will mention, though, that definitely newer customers coming in and getting the product, especially with friends and family shipping the box to others for birthdays or celebrations or things like that. And then seeing those people end up purchasing a box as well. So we definitely are seeing new customers come in, but the actual, blueprint as to who that customer is pretty much the same.
And a lot of people who, and John was referring to this earlier, a lot of people, once the pandemic started, kind of stayed away from social media in terms of promoting their business. We did not do that. We stayed consistent. We kept our messaging clear, and we continued on with our social media and our advertising and putting our message out there. And that has been reflected, 10 times over in terms of the new number of people that we're now seeing that are people I've never seen before that are purchasing our Bevy Box and telling their friends about it. We have a new audience because of it. that's increased significantly since mid-March.
I think that's such a linchpin to our conversation, is this idea that you've always been about delivering local to new people and to giving that experience, right? You're all about providing incredible local experiences. So that hasn't changed, right? Your value proposition, what you deliver is exactly the same. You're just doing it in a bit of a different way. But it's
who we were.
Yeah, for sure. The
It's a blue
means is
ribbon.
different, but the ends is the
It's a blue
same,
ribbon
right?
on the package instead of a red ribbon. We've just
Yeah.
and
We
then
no longer
wrapping
get a
paper
bag when
around
we
it.
head to your events, right? Yeah.
Hey, Adam, are there any other audience questions?
So we just had some wonderful comments, right? Some from Marlene Kohler just said, incredible in heart and commitment that you both bring to all of your enterprises. You're creative and so hardworking. You deserve all the success you've earned. Quite inspiring. Emmanuel Ray said, what a wonderful session. Thanks so much to Justin, Adam, Pina, and Adriano for sharing. It's great to hear about your successes and challenges.
Awesome. Every business is going to go through challenges, right? And it's how you're going to adapt to it. And especially right now, Pina and I keep saying, everyone's at ground zero right now. Everyone is starting all over again, from the big guys to the little businesses like us. So there's never been a better opportunity to kind of grab hold of something and run with it than right now. And that's what we're trying to do is with that. We've even seen, and because a lot of people are coming to us as well and asking for our opinions and things along those lines because of the success that we've had, not just with this, but previously as well. We see that when all this is over, the market is already shifting. It was already shifting to what we were doing, to being niche, to being intimate, to being experiential. And when all this is said and done, the market, in my opinion, is going to be shifting to that even more, to smaller experiences with less people, and that are more hands-on, with that are unique, and people are already seeking us out, asking for our expertise, which we're preparing to be able to offer our expertise to help people, guide people through the experiential development process for a tourism product. So we're excited about it. We're seeing the opportunities. Even the province itself, while no details have come into place yet, have mentioned that they're going to be dedicating dollars for tourism businesses to develop experiential tourism products. So we see it heading in that direction. We've seen it for a while heading in that direction, and we're happy to say we were a little ahead of the game on that.
Yeah.
That's why we're so pleased to have you on our very first Digital Shift virtual workshop. We know that you're clearly innovative and always doing amazing things. So thanks so much. Can I ask you to let our audience know how they can find out more about Windsor Eats and how to reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can definitely go to WindsorEats.com, and that's basically our whole life on a website.
That's the easiest way to reach us. We each have our own personal accounts as well on Instagram and on Twitter. Some people may find it a little harder to spell out our names as the account. So we always just say, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, it's all at Windsor Eats on every single one. And then you can easily find our other accounts through there, and really be able to learn about what we're doing, and see everything else that other people are doing as well, because we're still continuing to showcase the great work that others are doing.
And can I just add too, because I know a lot of people we're all pretty stressed out. I mean, our small businesses, our livelihood, we've put everything we've gotten into them. And to kind of see them kind of spiral in a downward spiral and out of control can be a bit daunting. But I'm learning that as this goes on, is that this is an amazing opportunity to reimagine and re-envision what your business is. It's an opportunity to take a leap of faith and try something new, or redirect where you want to go, or get hyper local and kind of re-envision what it is that your small business is doing or does. I know Adriano and I are kind of taking this opportunity to kind of do that with Windsor Eats. Will Windsor Eats be the same 6 months down the road, a year from now? We have no idea.
It's not the same from when it first started. It's
Yeah.
completely, it shifted, and it's always going to adapt and take advantage of opportunities that present itself. It's always going to be very fluid, and
Yeah.
as long staying with the same, goals and same mindset and mission, but things are going to change. If you're staying static, you're not going to have too much success. Although I noticed there's a question as well in the Q&A.
Yeah, for sure. It's just around the price point. So how did you really decide what exactly you were going to set the price point at? And does it have a similar price point to your in-person experiences?
We went back and forth on this quite a bit when we were trying to establish price points, because we didn't want to. I mean, when this first started, we lost 95% of our revenue base through festivals, events, tours, everything. The remaining percentage was lost when Adriano and I made the decision to not charge for membership fees for restaurants, wineries, and marketing fees for those establishments. So in essence, we lost 100% of our business. The Bevy Box kind of is helping us to regain a fraction of that revenue. And we didn't want to overprice the Bevy Box.
At the same time, though, it's still, because we understand, and we were even saying when we were pricing them that, yeah, they're a little higher, but we also believe that there's a value, much like everything that we do when we do our tours, when we do our festivals and events. The price is the price for a reason.
Yes.
It's for the quality that you're getting, the value that you're getting, the convenience that you're getting. Depending on what that product is, there's value to that. And so I'll use our craft beer 6-pack as an example in the Bevy Box. It's 6 beers, from 6 different breweries. So 6 different breweries are in the 6-pack, where you wouldn't be able to get that delivered to your house from one of the breweries itself. You would have to buy an entire 24-pack or whatnot of just from the one brewery, and same with the wineries as well. So we know a lot from a lot of what we do, hosting the Windsor Craft Beer Festival, having done Bikes and Beers tours and other festivals and events, that craft beer drinkers love being able to try so many different styles of beers. And so we knew that there was the value behind being able to do the mixer pack like that. And so we're always big believers. We have a spreadsheet that we try to put everything in that determines, what our price point should be for products. And we always look at it as the price is the price. And I know it rubs people the wrong way sometimes, but I always say, I would love to drive a better car than I do as well, but I have the car I do because that's what I can afford. And we understand that not everyone can afford every single product that's out there. And when we were hosting festivals and events, that's why we had such a wide range of different offerings at different price points, from just simple $5 for our bikes and beers, all the way up to $175 for dinner on a pier. And that's kind of fitting in with the mindset that we've always had doing that. So
and we believe that you shouldn't undervalue what you do. Your time, your energy, your ideas have value, and it should be reflected in those price points.
Well said, and a nice way to end this Zoom side chat conversation. Thank you so much, Adriano and Pina, for being with us today. Definitely, I think myself and all of us on the call today can follow your pivots and your experiences through social media and through WindsorEats.com. So best wishes and be well as we go through the next phase of this journey altogether. With that, I'll ask Adam. It's been great tag teaming with Adam, and again, another incredible person, to maybe highlight some wrap-up thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this workshop.
Awesome. So Justin, I just wanted to sort of cap everything off by saying thank you. I know that Adriano and Pina and I appreciate it. Justin, if you don't already know him, which I think everybody watching probably does, but is one of the most passionate people when it comes to local, when it comes to tourism, and when it comes to supporting small businesses. So just thank you so much for helping us put all of this together and gathering everybody in one place so we could learn today. One thing I'd be really interested in, because how my mind worked, is with all of your incredible inspiration that you've given us, Pina and Adriano, I think Justin and I would love to see what's done with the tool and with some of the digital shifts that are happening. So if you all have results from using the tool and taking away what you've learned here today, send us an email. Let us know how that sort of affected you, and give us a look at what you've done to change and what digital shift you've taken on. Because I think we'd all be super interested in. Pina and Adriano can put it up on their website. You already know they like doing that. So
way to hold us accountable to that. Doing mention it in public.
Exactly. We'll get it up on the Windsor Eats website. I know them. It's fine. I just wanted to remind everyone that we're gonna give away that workbook as well that we've talked about. You should have already had a link. If you didn't see it or you can't see it for whatever reason, we're gonna send it again. You're also gonna get a brief survey, super brief, 2 questions, to just give us your feedback. So we are running 5 of these. This is the first of 5. We want to make sure that they get better, although it's gonna be tough without the same guests. But we think we're gonna have really great conversations across the board. So giving us your feedback really helps us to make it better, and to continue to deliver value to you. As we learned today, value is sort of the most important thing, no matter how it's delivered, right? So we look forward to seeing everyone participate again at our next digital shift. And Justin, I'll give it back to you, buddy.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Adam, and sending everything back to you and Pina and Adriano. Thanks so much. So yes, so our next one, as we've talked about, is June 16th, and we're really pleased to have our shift experts for that workshop is the Belleville Downtown District BIA, and we'll be having a wonderful conversation about their online marketplace that they created. Again, much like Windsor Eats, really early in the current crisis and what they've learned and how it's been rolled out. So we'll be excited to have them join us. Thanks everyone who's listening for joining us today. We hope it was informative and inspiring. As Adam said, there'll be a survey being sent out. We really appreciate any feedback that you might have. Please reach out to us at the lab. The website again is tourisminnovation.ca. Stay tuned to the website and our social media for other updates. But again, really glad to have collaborated with everyone here today to run this workshop, and look forward to connecting sometime soon. Take care, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.